Good morning. Today our lesson is called Estimating Products of Fractions. So today I am going to lecture to you and I'm going to ask you to take notes. So after we already have our title, which you should already have at the top of your notebook page, I would like you to draw 12 X's for me. Okay, so if I asked you to find out what would be 1/4 of 12, could you readily find that answer? Yeah, you could, because you could divide your 12 X's into 4 equal groups. So I know that 4 goes into 12 3 times, so I know that I can make 4 groups of 3. So if I was to ask you to solve this problem and say what is 1/4 of 12, 1 out of the 4 groups would be 3. So this should be a little bit of review, especially when you started learning about division. So now we're going to go into our lesson today, which is estimating. So what happens if we did this? What happens for our second example? I ask you 11. So draw 11 X's. And I said, all right, I'd like you to find 1/5 of 11. And so now I know some of you are thinking, eek, Mrs. Deek, I can't make 5 groups of 11 because 5 doesn't go into 11 equally. Well, that is today's lesson. Today's lesson is we are going to estimate. So we are going to change the whole number in the problem. So I would look at 11 and say, all right, what number is really close to 11 that I can divide by 5? And you would say 10. So I would change this to 10. I'm going to take off an X because we're estimating today. And I would split my group of 10 into 5 equal groups. And so we would say the answer to this is about, estimating, remember, about 2. 1 group out of the 5 has 2 in it. All right, so that's just kind of to get our brains around the concept. So now let's actually try some problems. All right, so our first example is going to be estimate 1/4 of 13. All right, so after you write this problem down, I want you to start thinking in your head, okay, does 4 go into 13 evenly? You're thinking no. So you're thinking to yourself, what number does 4 go into that's really close to 13? And hopefully you're thinking of 12. And 4 goes into 12 about 3. The key today is, since we're estimating, we would say about 3. And if you need to draw a picture with X's or whatever other shape you would like to use to help you with this, go for it. All right, let's go on to our next example. So we are going to now estimate 2/5 of 11. So go ahead and write this example down in your notebook. All right, so now again you're thinking, okay, I have 5 as my denominator and I have a whole number of 11. Since today we're estimating, I'm going to change this 11 into a number that 5 can go into. So again, I'm thinking of 10. Now this one's a little bit tricky. There's a couple of different ways you could do this. You could either draw the model, so you could draw a picture of 10. And you could say, okay, 5 goes into 10 2 times, so each group would have 2 in it, because I'm making it into 5 equal groups. Since the numerator says 2, I need a total of 2 of these groups, which would give me an answer of about 4. Another way you could do it was you'd be, okay, 5 goes into 10 2 times, and now I need to multiply it by my numerator to get an answer of about 4. So either way you choose to do it, you could either choose to do a model way and show me the answer that way, because you have to prove it, or you could do it this way. All right, so I'm going to give you another one. I'm not going to talk you through it yet. I just want you to write it and solve it, and then I'll do it as well. All right, so our next example is estimate 3/4 of 23. So I'm going to give you a second or two to go ahead and write this problem down and solve it. All right, so I'm going to go slow, so if you're still solving, go ahead. So again, I'm looking at my denominator of 4. I'm saying, wow, 4 does not go into 23, so a number that's close would be 24. 4 goes into 24. I just drew a blank. It's 6. I was drawing a blank. I'm like, wait, 4 times what number is? So it goes in 6 times, so I'd multiply that times 3 to get, about 18. Again, you could draw your picture of 24, divide it into 4 equal sections of 6, and then count up 3 of those sections to get a total of 18. So that's just the first part of the lesson. The second part of the lesson today is estimating with fractions of 2 fractions, not just a whole number. So this example would be estimate 1/3 times 7/9. So today the goal is either to round to a 0, a half, or a 1. So we would have to look at 1/3 and say, what is 1/3 closest to? Is it closer to 0 or is it closer to 1/2? If you need to draw a number line to help you, then go ahead and draw a number line to help you. So 1/3 would be like in here. 7/9 would be up in here. Right? So I would round 1/3 to 1/2 because it's closer to 1/2 than 0. And I would round 7/9 closer to 1. So my answer would be about 1/2. So these problems are pretty easy because you're only dealing with 0, which you know the answer is 0, or 1, and so you know the answer is 0 or 1. Or it could be 1/2, depending on if you're multiplying like this one. So the trick with this one is just knowing your fractions and how far they are in a number line. So let's draw another problem. So let's try 1/4 times, actually let's change that to 1/9. So 1/9 times 4/5. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a second to solve estimating 1/9 to times 4/5. So again, you're going to look at the number line, figure out where 1/9 is closer to. Is it closer to 0, 1/2, or 1? And then solve. So hopefully you figured out that 1/9 would be way over here. So that would be 0. And 4/5 would be over here, around closer to 1. So we would say the answer would be about 0. All right, hopefully you're picking up on this. Let's do 2 more problems, and then the guest teacher is going to talk you through a couple more examples. So here we go. Let's do 5/6 times 9/10. So go ahead and take a moment to solve. So hopefully you're realizing that 5/6 would be closer to 1, and the same with 9/10 would be closer to 1. So our answer would be about 1. Okay, so again, it's just making sure you understand where the fractions fall on a number line. Or you could draw pictures of it if you need to help you. But the big key today is making sure you're putting that estimating sign. Our last example is this. So let's say we have a flower bed. And a flower bed is normally in the shape of a rectangle. So we're going to estimate the flower bed's area. So let's say this dimension here is 14 7/8 feet. And we would say this side is 6 1/8 feet. So since we're estimating today, we don't actually have to solve this, but we will in the future solve this problem. So I'm going to look at this and I'm going to say, okay, is 7/8 closer to 0, 1/2, or 1? In this case, 7/8 is really close to 1. So I'm just going to change this, instead of 14 7/8, I'm going to change this to 15 feet because it's pretty close to 15 feet. I'm estimating. This one, however, as I look at it, is 6 1/8. Well, 6 1/8, 1/8 would be closer to 0, so I'm just going to keep this as the whole number of 6 feet. Then, now all I have to do is multiply these two numbers because I'm estimating. So I would say the area is about 15 times 6, which is about 90. And then since we're solving an area problem, we always have to use the dimension, which is feet. And hopefully you remember this from a while ago. Since we multiplied feet times feet, it is feet squared. So today the big thing is estimating is going ahead and rounding to numbers that are easiest for you to solve. So go ahead and the guest teacher is going to go ahead and do a couple of examples with you, and then you'll get into your homework. Have a great day, everyone.